Coming up next here on Channel 17, From a Country Garden.
Funding for From a Country Garden is made possible by Lily Ponds Water Gardens, Lily Ponds, Maryland, and Brookshire, Texas. Mail order source for your water garden needs. Garden Way, Troy, New York. Makers of and the mail order source for the Troy-built rototiller and the Trailblazer sickle bar mower. And Park Seed Company, Greenwood, South Carolina. Mail order source for flower, vegetable, and herb seed, helping gardens grow since 1868.
This morning, we are going to prepare this patch of the vegetable garden to plant. And to the viewer, it may look just like a weed patch, but in fact, there are very few weeds in it. The crop here is a green manure crop. And green manure is one way of enriching your soil, improving the quality, the texture of the soil. And that is done by planting, seeding, an annual grain crop. In the fall or in the spring, if you don't want to use that part of the land that current year, and then later on turning it into the ground. Now the grain, the packages of green manure seed can be purchased in whatever quantity you need for the size of plot you have. The seed order, the mail order houses have it, and so do the garden centers. But if you have a large area, you can get large bags, as we have here. There are many other ways of enriching the soil as well, and Larry's got a few of them to show.
I have indeed. Now you may see, and we've got quite a windy day today, that we have rather light soil. Sorry.
Oh,
and so for us, it's a good idea to incorporate into the soil anything that's going to hold moisture. If you happen to have a clay soil, then probably what you need is to add something like sand, which is going to allow for drainage. But so don't put peat moss, which is what I have here, on the soil if you have a clay soil, because it's not going to help you out. Now this peat moss does not have any nutrients in it, but it does have a capacity for holding moisture. It's very sort of loose stuff. It blows about, so you don't want to use that on a very wet day. Of course, you can buy it from any of the garden centers. Now, next, we can incorporate leaf mold. It's one of the best ways of improving the soil. In fact, of course, most of our soil comes from leaf mold in the first place. This was last fall's crop of leaves that we shredded, and it's been sitting in a pile, and it will break down when mixed with soil. However, it is going to take a bit of nitrogen out of the soil, and perhaps one should add, while incorporating the leaf mold, which is still rather fresh, it hasn't quite become mold, one should incorporate a little fertilizer.
Larry, I'd prefer not to add that now.
At this time?
It's too complicated to
So we'll keep it until it really becomes leaf mold. Now here's something that gets me really excited. This is compost. This is about 2.5 years old, and it's just like soil. And it consists of all kinds of things. I see eggshells here that haven't quite broken down yet, but you can see that it is really soil.
That alone would grow a most beautiful crop.
Marvelous stuff, no smell.
And all kinds of micronutrients in it.
Now finally, something that really turns me on is well-rotted manure. Now again, there's no smell to this, absolutely none. It's clean to handle. It's about 3 to 4 years old, and it's relatively clean. There may be a few weed seeds in it, but it's easy to handle. It's going to hold moisture, and it is full of all those little things that the plants need so badly.
It's also available in bags at garden centers as well as the peat moss. So those two are available, but manure and compost has to be homemade, a leaf mold as well. But the last thing on the list of improving the soil is the chemical fertilizer. And the addition of a little of the correct chemical fertilizer to your vegetable garden when you are rototilling may just give that extra boost. But we never do that without the organic content being improved at the same time. Now, another feature is the pH of your soil. And that means the acidity alkaline level. And for a vegetable garden, it should be neutral. The reading should be 7. And you can take some soil to the garden center and they will test it, or you can get a little home test kit for yourself. Now,
before I rototill this ground, we want to make sure that there are no perennial weeds here, that when I start using the rototiller, it'll be cut up and produce 3 or 4 for the price of 1. That's the last thing we want. So we want to just go through this and remove annual weeds. Ha-ha.
what's that?
Well, we had leeks. We grew leeks here last year, and this one seems to have survived. So,
it's rather miserable, though.
well, you'll be miserable if you spent all the winter out. So we'll just go through the garden, particularly here, where we had the crop, the green crop here. It's relatively clean. In fact, I don't think there are any weeds there now. But here there may be some quackgrass, so we'll clean that up, and then we'll get to work.
That is a bit of vetch, and if that were chopped into a whole lot of small pieces, it would mean a whole lot more plants.
One other thing is water. We get some very dry summers, but fortunately we have a good deep well and we're able to water. So I have a watering system here that will be put back into place after I've done the rototilling. For the time being, though, we just remove the pipes and just pull them to one side, and I can start working.
Another nice piece of vetch. While Larry is doing the rototilling here, I'm going to go up and see Bruce Turner and ask him to give our viewers some tips on purchasing vegetable transplants. Well, here we are in Bruce and Ruth Turner's cold frame. It's a little larger than our cold frame, and Bruce has all his vegetable transplants here. As you know, Bruce, I grow most of my own, but what I would like you to do is to tell our viewers what they should look for when they go out to buy their vegetable transplants.
Well, one of the main things to look for as soon as you go into a greenhouse to buy transplants is to look at the color. And if you see a good, dark green, healthy-looking plant, then that is your first care. Now, if you take and look through and you see something like we have over here with this lettuce that's turning a little yellow, a few dead leaves in it and that is overgrown plants. And
they should have been out
3 weeks ago.
Oh.
They were ready for sale 3 weeks ago, but the weather wouldn't let people buy. There's nothing, they're still all right. You could still plant them, but you won't have as nice a plant as you would if they'd have been done 3 weeks ago. So that's the first thing to look for. Another thing then, look for a good sturdy plant. Get a plant that is standing by itself and strong. And if you shake it, it wiggles and don't fall down. Now you get those two things and you have a real start of a real good transplant.
Because you know that the seed that you have used here is all top quality seed. So, and of course, plants are only as good as their genetic background, too.
Right on.
And the thing also, which I think is so great in your greenhouse, is the signs.
And we find that very handy because an awful lot of people have no idea how long it takes to grow a cabbage or a tomato. And these days that are marked on these signs, like the lettuce says 93 days, the cabbage 83, that is recommended by the seed company. And they put the days on them.
And they've done all the tests
That's
for
right.
that.
Yeah.
But also, Bruce, people don't realize that some of the cabbages are 83 days, whereas, am I not right in thinking that these little mini cabbages are much faster?
Faster, right, yes. This is a fall late cabbage. The Savoy is a lot later. And then you go to the regular cabbage, and I don't have the signs up. There's one, early Marvel, 65 days.
Yeah, well, that's
And
20 days earlier than these.
Yeah.
So that makes a... And here is the most nutritious of all the cabbage tribe, the curly kale.
Yep.
Is there much demand for that?
European people, nearly every European person that comes in buys it. But the Canadians haven't caught on to it yet, and I guess they're still staying with spinach and not eating. But each year we sell more and more of it each year.
And the great thing about curly kale is that you are eating it right up to Christmas.
That's right. It's
stays.
very hardy and a very tough plant.
Ours even came through the winter, and we had a number of dishes of it this spring. That's the first time that's ever happened.
Another thing to keep an eye out when you go into a greenhouse is when you look at the plants and you pick up. Now, we don't have any here. Once in a while we do get them, but you'll see little white dots on the ground. Turn your plant upside down and you'll get what we call mites, white mites on. Now, there's none on these, they're clear. But if a plant gets really covered with them, they'll suck the sap out of the plant, and you'll have trouble in it. So just watch that as you buy. It's another, more or less, a tip to keep an eye on.
And of course, one of the things to try and control with tomatoes is whitefly.
Fly, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yours are lovely and clean, no whitefly here. It's easy to tell if there's a whitefly. All you need to do is touch the leaves.
They'll fly, yeah.
Yeah.
With your tomatoes, when you plant a tomato, be very, very careful and get it down deep. Plant your tomato down to just, if that one there, I'd plant them right to the top of them leaves. Now, the reason to plant a tomato deep is when he's down in the ground, he'll put out roots all the way along. And instead of having one body of a root down here holding it, you have a whole lot of roots holding your top plant. And when they get heavy with fruit, they're well supported.
Now, those, Bruce, look very different to the ones in your hand.
Well, they're planted maybe 10 days ahead.
But are they the same?
Same tomato.
Oh, I
yeah,
see.
just 10 days earlier. Now, like a tomato like that, don't hesitate to put it in the ground that deep, right to there. Now, some people will bend them over and put them in, but I don't like it because the moisture is in the bottom 6 inches, not the top 2 inches of your garden.
I plant them in a trench on a slope like that.
Try putting them down, Ansis, and you'll have better tomatoes.
Yeah, but Bruce, often the ground is still rather cold deep down.
Yeah.
And that's why I feel the trench...
But you'll get more moisture down there in a dry season. Now, last year you could plant them on top of the ground.
Yes. Mm. And I see celery here. Is this celery?
The celeriac, that's celeriac, and here we have the celery.
They look quite similar in the leaf, but they are very different in their growth.
Yeah, a little bit lighter and darker in color. And celery grows very good in this part of the country. I like to plant it in a square block, just like I've planted it here, only 6 inches apart. Now, if you plant it in a square block, these outside ones will get big and bushy, and they force the inside ones to go up long and skinny. And when you buy it in the store, you buy long, skinny stalks, and that's how they get it there. Now, a lot of people plant it in a straight line and throw dirt up on it, but I'm a lazy guy, and I let it do its own work and plant it square.
You look lazy. with all this. Whereas the celeriac, you plant well spaced,
Spaced, yes, and it grows a very big root. And there was a European lady here the other day and bought some, and she says she uses the leaves as much as she uses the roots.
I've never heard of that being
Chops
done.
the leaves all up and puts it in her soups and stews and stuff along until the root gets big, and then she uses the root.
And of course the roots of celeriac keep so well for the winter.
Oh, just like a potato.
Yeah, potato,
same kind of storage.
and so on.
Yeah.
So,
And it gives you the same flavor as celery.
And there you have onions. Which variety have you there?
This is the sweet Spanish onion, and a lot of people get confused. They buy the Spanish type sets, and they think they have the sweet Spanish onion. But the Spanish type in sets are not a sweet onion, and they're hotter. And these fellows here, is you break them out, each individual onion. There's 100 in that pot, and you plant them out 6 inches apart, and put lots of water to them, and you'll end up with onions up to 4 or 5 inches in size.
And the sweet Spanish onion, correct me if I'm not right, does not keep for the winter.
Yes, it does.
It does?
Yeah.
Aha.
We have kept them through to the end of March.
Oh, have
In
you?
fact, we just finished eating the last of ours the other day, and last year was a bad year for keeping them because it was so much wet.
Yeah.
Now, a year ago, we kept them right through till pretty nearly we're eating onions again.
Yes, we did the year before, but not last year.
No,
not
they
last
were
year.
terrible.
No.
And
but these sweet Spanish can really be practically eaten raw. Like an apple.
Yeah, you can eat these, and now there's one thing to make sure that they are sweet and not hot is keep them well watered. Put lots of water to them, and after mine get up and start to bulb, I give them a side dress and a potash to make them hard. But keep the water to them all the time.
But that's not until they have started to bulb.
Yes.
In the beginning, they need more nitrogen.
Nitrate, yeah. If they turn yellow after I plant them in the garden, I give them a treatment of 20-20-20. And then
That's a good, strong dose.
Yes. Yeah. And then once they get a bulb on them, say the size of a hen egg, then I start to give them one good treatment of potash, about 2 inches, 3 inches away on each side of the row. And then work it in the dirt.
And onions are easy to grow.
Very easy. And an awful lot of people now, since we've started growing them here, are not planting the regular seed onions. They're planting these and using the big ones for sweet Spanish to eat on hamburgers, raw and that. And they're using the small ones for cooking. And the cutworm and the onion maggot doesn't bother these as much as they bother your seed onions.
No, and the onion root maggot can be a terrible
Oh, they just
pest.
clean you right out, yes. And another thing with these, like if I had time, I wished mine were in the garden now.
Yes.
You can plant these very, very early, and in fact, earlier the better.
Yes, because onions like cold weather.
That's right, yes.
In fact, many onions will stay in the garden all winter.
That's right.
Grow, but so anything more that you think we should
One more thing with the onion now, you'll see them cut off at the top. Now don't cut them when you plant them. We cut them here so we can make them strong and sturdy so that when you shake them, they're good and solid. And if we didn't cut them, they would be this long and lay down. But don't cut them after you put them in the garden.
Now, just let them
Let
grow.
them go, yeah.
Right. Anything more here, Bruce?
We have the flowering kale over there in the corner, Estes, and the flowering cabbage
that's become very popular for ornamental gardening.
Yes.
And it is very hardy because I see it in the late fall still looking beautiful.
Oh, it'll stay long after the frost and still bloom and look nice.
So, well, Bruce, I can't thank you enough because I'm sure what you have said will help our friends when they go out to do their shopping.
Well, I hope so, and don't be afraid to ask your greenhouse operator about it when they're buying stuff. Ask them how to grow it and that, and most of them will tell you how.
And ask them also the length of time it's going to take for that crop to mature.
Yes, very important.
Right.
Yes.
Now I should be on my way home. Thank you very, very much, Bruce.
Oh, you're quite welcome. Come back again sometime.
This is a wonderful use for old nylon stockings. It's nice and soft and it's stretchy. And I tie up the staking tomatoes with little strips of it. After I got home from visiting Bruce, I planted out the main part of the garden, all the brassicas, that's the cabbage group, and the tomatoes and the peppers. But I held back a couple of tomatoes, these two. Now this one is a determinate tomato, a bush tomato. It will only grow to a certain size, fruit, and then die. Whereas this one is an indeterminate tomato, and it will go on growing and growing and growing until the frost eventually kills it. These can be grown either on stakes or in cages. And this one I have allowed to get much too large. It's the same lot of seeding as all the rest here, but this one has not been planted out yet, as you can see. This is actually a canning tomato called Genoa. Before I plant it out, I am going to, well, I'll first of all take it out of its pot. There's its root system. And then I'm going to strip all the leaves off it, up to, remove all these, and I shall just leave a small amount at the top. That, I think even one more leaf can go. And Bruce said, plant them right deep down in the ground and they get more moisture. So I'll dig a hole that deep and I will just leave the little bit sticking out at the top. That is a strong plant. We've had a lot of rain and the soil is lovely and moist, and this has been very well fertilized, so I'm not adding anything more here. But I need a very deep hole. And we are very lucky that we have this kind of depth of topsoil. Now, let's see how deep I've gone. No, not nearly deep enough. I could plant this on its side, but I'm going to take Bruce's advice and try one or two of them with their roots very low in the ground. It certainly won't lack moisture, and it will put out its root system the whole way down. I think that'll be all right now. Fill it in. And now that it's planted, I shall put a cage around it. And here is my cage. And I shall stake it, stake the cage, that is, because this tomato will completely fill the whole cage, and I will not do any pruning at all. The staking tomatoes, I will remove all the shoots that grow at the axils of the leaves. There, that's that. Now, I have had some problems with cutworms, and some of my globe artichokes were badly damaged, and I found the cutworm, and whenever you see a plant that has been cut off at ground level, you will know that a cutworm has been at work. And that is what the cutworm looks like, but usually when you find it in the soil, it's curled up in a little ball like that. They're often quite hard to find. Now that I must destroy. I usually do that. That deals with it. This morning, Larry was busy doing the potatoes. He was hilling up the potatoes, and he found a couple of Colorado beetles, which means that we have to start dusting the potatoes. And we have to keep the Colorado beetles under control. We must not allow them to spread, or they will ruin the crop. They are very easy to see, and they can be cured or prevented by dusting the crop with rotenone, and that is an organic insecticide. And now another thing that must be done now is the thinning of the carrots and the beets and the various other crops that I seeded. So I shall head off and do that.
Stay tuned for Golden Land, next here on Channel 17.
If you have any questions concerning From a Country Garden or would like further information, feel free to contact Anstis and Larry by writing to From a Country Garden, 1056 Arsenal Street, Watertown, New York, 13601, or write to your local PBS station. Funding for From a Country Garden is made possible by Lily Ponds Water Gardens, Lily Ponds, Maryland, and Brookshire, Texas. Mail order source for your water garden needs. Garden Way, Troy, New York, makers of and the mail order source for the Troy-built rototiller and the Trailblazer sickle bar mower. And Park Seed Company, Greenwood, South Carolina, mail order source for flower, vegetable, and herb seed, helping gardens grow since 1868.
The summer of 1988 began peacefully in Yellowstone National Park. But by mid-July, the park faced the worst forest fires in more than 2 centuries. Thousands of acres were burning. Army and Marine forces joined civilian firefighters as they battled to control the relentless blazes. But as the fires progressed, they gained in power, threatening to destroy the beloved landscape. Tourists were ordered to evacuate the park. They fled as the advancing flames encircled Yellowstone's most treasured landmark, the lodge at the Old Faithful Geyser. The afternoon skies were as dark as midnight, and gale force winds hurled debris at the firefighters and the buildings. No one knew how many animals would perish as the fire consumed their natural habitat. Would the flames of '88 leave anything behind? That's Yellowstone's burning question. Next time on Nova.
Tuesday night at 8 on Channel 17.
Discover new worlds of adventure with the modern world's greatest explorer, Jacques Cousteau. Travel with Cousteau through the eerie wreck of a Spanish ship held captive by the sea for 400 years. Explore the hidden sculpture of a glacier. Catch a rare glimpse of the graceful beluga, now doomed to certain extinction. And watch as Cousteau's crew risk their lives to save a baby whale and return it to its mother. Discover Cousteau's Cries from the Deep.
Thursday night at 8 on Channel 17.